7.5 years in prison. That is the sentence handed down to former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan.
Our Sabrina Franza was in the courtroom when the judge made that ruling. Sabrina.
Hi, Joe Marie. We're talking about a trial that started with a 23-count indictment. Madigan was found guilty on 10 of those counts, including charges of bribery, conspiracy, and fraud charges. This was a trial that lasted 11 weeks. The jurors deliberated for 11 days, and the investigation that went into this trial was over the course of 10 years for corruption that they say lasted 8 years. Now, Madigan entered the courtroom in a dark suit with a red tie, and when he left today, he was now sentenced to 7.5 years in prison, also facing a fine of $2.5 million and 3 years probation. You can see here, folks are trying to ask him questions as he's leaving the Dirksen Federal Courthouse. He did not take any questions. During his sentencing hearing today, he sat pretty stone cold, not really emotion on his face at all. He actually spoke to the judge at one point, pleading for mercy, saying that he apologized to the people of Illinois for putting them through this. The judge later said that apology was not enough to justify a sentence that was less than what he was given. The judge also remarked that the letters that were sent on Madigan's behalf were some that he dwelt upon at length. He said this was a case that is really sad, the judge said, because the defendant is in fact a dedicated public servant who is kind. He's 83 years old. Madigan did ask the judge to give him mercy because of, in part, his wife that has been dealing with cancer. And he said, in regards to all of this, regardless of all of this, Madigan did it. He committed the crimes that he was found guilty of anyway. He also found, and the recommended sentence rose because of this, that Madigan was obstructing justice by taking the stand, something that he did not have to do. But the judge called his testifying nauseating. He said, "You lied, sir, you lied." And because of that, he was granted the sentence, as we mentioned, of 90 months or 7.5 years in prison. We also want to show you video of what it looked like when he entered court this morning, a much different Madigan than what you just saw of him walking out of court. When he was in the courtroom at the beginning of the day, the judge did say, "This is going to be a long day. Let us know if you need any breaks." He even laughed for a moment with the judge, but like we said, a much different Madigan than what we saw leaving today, and that is completely appropriate with the title that the judge pretty much gave today. He said this entire trial was a tale of two Mike Madigans. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Sabrina, thank you very much.
This sentence is harsher than what many legal experts thought that the former House Speaker would get. Our team coverage continues now.
Charlie DeMar is with our legal analyst Irv Miller, who actually did call for somewhere around 6, 7 to 8 years, and he was right on. Charlie.
And the judge, when handing down the sentence, called it an abuse of the highest power, ultimately talking about that obstruction of justice, saying that Mike Madigan had the right to take the stand in his own defense, but what he didn't have the right to do was to lie in front of the court. And that seemed to play a big role in today's decision.
You know, obviously this judge has, as most judges, their own pet peeves. And obviously to this particular judge, you know, he wants somebody to accept responsibility for what they did. He doesn't want anybody in his courtroom lying and committing perjury in front of a judge and a jury. That meant something to this judge. Frankly, it's admirable. And Mr. Madigan is the one who's going to pay the price, because those things bothered this judge. And it kind of helps to know your judge when you're appearing in front of him. And defendants should be warned ahead of time. Here's what you should do, and here's what you can't do. And he did something he shouldn't have done.
And Sabrina mentioned it, some of the factors that went in Mike Madigan's favor. His age, he's 83 years old. Also his wife, who's been dealing with illness. Right before sentencing, a video was submitted to the judge for his review showing sort of their everyday life at home of his wife Shirley being helped up off the sofa from Mike, and saying that Mike is her main caregiver. There was over 200 letters in support of Michael Madigan asking for leniency. How much did that play a role in today's sentencing?
Well, actually, with respect to that video, the government turned that around to be something favorable for the government. because in their pleadings that they submitted yesterday, they said, listen, yes, we saw the video of Mrs. Madigan, and we agree she's sick, and we also agree that Mr. Madigan has been helping her. But Mr. Madigan, more than most people around, can afford to pay for the best care possible for his wife while he's away at the penitentiary. So that came back to hurt him.
We touched on it in the moments that this sentence came down, but if people are confused on why Michael Madigan was able to walk out of the courtroom today on his own accord, can you walk us through what happens next in this process?
Well, first of all, he was able to walk out because that's typically the case in federal court. State court's totally different. But here, he's given a date to turn himself into a federal penitentiary. The Bureau of Prisons will let him know which penitentiary to report to. He has to report before noon on that given date. But until that happens, until he reports to the penitentiary, he has the right to stay out. And he could ask the appellate court to set him free because he's a model citizen, he's not a flight risk. But in order to do that, he would have to convince the appellate court basically that A, he's not a flight risk, and B, there's a really good chance, likely chance, that he will get a new trial or a reversal of his sentence, of his conviction, based on their appeal.
Irv, thank you so much. Michael Madigan did walk out a short time ago with his defense attorneys, and we do expect to hear from federal prosecutors at some point. We'll stand by for that, guys.
Irv and Charlie, thank you both.
We will have much more on the sentencing of Mike Madigan just ahead in our newscast at 6. You can always get the very latest on our website as well, cbschicago.com.